to you in there, man. I spotted it. I opened right to it. Whoa. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, I wanted to make sure you got one with them. I took some ghosts. Good. Yeah. When you're up there, you should sell every picture. Yeah. No. Yeah. I'll bring it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Tell people to yeah. Okay. That's a good idea. Yeah. Take that one. I was like, dude. I was like, I would shave this thing down for weeks.
All right. Good afternoon. All right, settle down. So, we're going to have a poetry reading. It's very exciting. First, I want to thank Bert and Beckett, Nick, and Eric. It's always a pleasure to... And Gabby, thank you very much, Gabby, who's manning the store. And so that's so that Eric can be at his grandchild's performance of SpongeBob, the musical, which part of what we're doing tonight is a SpongeBob musical. So it'll be interesting to see how the poets interpret that. So I'm going to introduce the poets one by one. But before we get to that, just want to make everyone aware that there are some lovely chapbooks that are just up for grabs, produced by Nick in the store, and then with individual covers, each painted by Jason Morris. So watercolor, 3 of 3s, grab a couple, don't be shy. They're in the box right over there to the right. And then the poets and the artists will just have the chances to have what's left to distribute as they see fit. But if you're in the audience, please do pick these up. As you can see, we've got 3 steaks here. Tasty. Nice, thick, as they should be. Pound steaks, you know. And 3 ghosts on a nice pink Gustin Onion background. All right. So first up, as far as the readers go, is going to be Julien Poirier, over here from Berkeley, with his lion mane of fine, lovely, graying hair, looking dapper as always. He doesn't have his coat on anymore, which is a little bit disappointment. He had his coat on. I recommend it for the reading, and it looks good. It's a solid green. Cool. I would appreciate it, darling. Okay. And Julien has done all sorts of like amazing, wonderful work on all fronts. The latest endeavor is Night Mail, which is like on like the 60th? 70s? It's in the 70s. Thank you, Tate. So it's in the 70s. It's a mailer. It's great to be on the list. You scoot him some money, and you get a mailer like, you know, maybe every month or 2, sometimes 2 a month. Yeah, you never know. And they're always amazing. And he's the proud father of 2 lovely girls. So, Julien Poirier.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks, everybody, for coming by. It's nice to be at Bird and Beckett. It's so nice. I'll empty the contents of my pockets here, too. You want to hold that? I'm going to read this poem I haven't read for a long time from a book I published a while ago called El Golpe Chileno. it's old. I wrote this poem. I was thinking about it on the way over here. I wrote it 21 years ago. It's called the Fragile Ecosystem of Chris. I was close enough to start to be streaking when Chris at Biff's, every booth has its own private phone, no dial tone. Nothing ivory works. You can't call. What? It does work. Someone busted into your compact truck, took my backpack, and threw it on the parking lot. I was drawing smokestacks, and you were painting silhouettes of surgery on napkins. Your rat phobia. What can I say about it? Live in this attic. My night is entangled in low-rent ponds. It started so great, a rehearsal space where even drinking from an implied cup was supposed to be attached to your character. My partner was stilted. The war got sick of watching. There were termites in the king. Crack addicts took over my car because I couldn't break a 20. Let me tell you something. Between the cafe, my car, your rats, and Diner Way, I had to be a lover. I blame society. I got in the way of a plant. No one sits with it while it's dying. People are too concerned with their shoes to see the miracle. A shock to the head wipes out your image in the lens, even the shoreline. So when you see those roller skaters ride into the tide, no mystery they appear to be levitating. Meanwhile, the old lady is sick, but her brilliance is governing the honeysuckle. Why don't you draw me a picture of your mom? How many times can I turn over the same leaf? My nights were energetic rebounds. I lost your head above. That's a picture of Chris there, actually. I know it's kind of small, but that's him. He has a champagne, one of those little champagne, like cages, cork cages on his nose. There, yeah. I actually wrote that poem, and I remember when this book came out, I remember reading the poem at Moe's, and Chris was sitting in the front. And it was so wonderful to read the poem to him, you know. Hi, Marina. I'm going to read all this other stuff I'd never read, or a few other things anyway. We'll put him in a jukebox when he dies, just like the astronaut whose eyes freeze when he cries, leaving only dragonfly bones on a crescent moon for the black train comic with freckles, licking a sour apple blow pop from a fable and chasing a crooked cop through a jukebox. This corner of Wyoming seems an unlikely home to such a fancy steakhouse. Are you still in New Mexico? For the month of June, I'm obliged to do nothing but exhume the skeletons of Dr. Watson, Halle Berry, and the Port Authority Otter, to declassify their dead ringer tibias and pinhole pelvis bones. Butterstone flakes for the Queen of Halliburton. I will bring you her head in its beehive of chew, and we can eat it off paper cones in your mom's backyard. I think your mom will like me. I can make myself handsome to older women now. Please tell her I think she's the Georgia O'Keeffe of dry pasta art. You're so brilliant. Were you formed in a gyre of shattered geometry and green digital tent mesh? Did you spin like ankled dancing knife before spurting out covered in blood? Are you still in Santa Fe? June, I have nothing. A little cash to play with and a fresh pair of ice blue jeans. This one's from one of a night mail. It's called Dancy Duck. I'm serious about my dancing. I don't do it often, but when I do, I go hard. I boogie with the bard and banish the boogeyman to meditative contemplation of bathwater breakers on a backwater Venus. What do you call this? The rebooted Charleston, the deconstructed boogie board. The true dancer never goes anywhere without his sock feet. He is a connoisseur of dimensions beyond our power of comprehension, positively elfin in his silver Chevy Silverado, dissolving in the backbeat like a bag full of chicken left on the step of a paper mill in Union City. An invisible rocket climbs through the purple sky and bursts behind Baryshnikov in tights. A military rumor milled in drifting snowflake footfalls susurrates on a Silverado's glass bone class ring under the umbrella of an equatorial dictator's daiquiri, setting the stage for some Javanese puppets to get down with me, representing all of humanity in a hall of mirrors, where the pilot with amnesia vibrates for the jungle of culture and resembles the rail of celery in an astronaut's Bloody Mary. Of boiling ambrosia, where Cuban Cadillacs melt like chocolate cats in the mouth of a doctor performing a colonoscopy in bell-bottoms. Synchronized dancer in body shop, exotic dancer in no clothes, private dancer in a one-horse town, double agent darting through the disco in line crisp bedsheet. Which are you? I don't do it often, but when I do, I go hard. Oh, yeah. I'm working on that. I got this book, some pieces here. Most of them don't have titles, but this is called Mansions My Mouth Made. A poet with no shadow label to get stepped on. His indifference to rain, the soul of rain. Hi, I'm coming over with this big pot of stew I made last night during the blackout and the book I couldn't put down till 3:30 of your ins and outs, otherwise known as poems you wrote. Cool, right? That's the way the Dutch do it. Continental drift, Utch, Abbott. So you can sign it, will you? Read it to me. Check out this interesting tongue. I'm so far behind. I'm just sitting here coming out of my skin. Ooh, my nose. Carrying your front door up your front stairs as the rain falls. Just get me through one last dark day. My brain is smaller than you think. Judge in black, nurse in white. All day I marinate in an absence of memory. When you grill me, I smoke. I hope my flesh is fully saturated with oblivion, which has no taste but boosts your iron. Cold and dry, metabolics, never mind. I forget the name, the chemistry of a prawn cooked by lime. But my private paper airplane pilot is nothing if not astute, as would you be if you went by the name of Captain Ceviche. If I'm going to get stuck in traffic with a whole lot of other morons, I at least want to be driving a shitty car. So there's almost nothing between me and the overarching atmosphere of blasé decay. Killed by a runaway air conditioner a la Frank Gehry. I'd rather be eating chicharrones on a smack in the Hong Kong harbor festooned with skulls. Maybe one more? Two more? Okay, two more. I want peace and creativity. We're barely here to begin with. A part of me will never understand why everything's such a mess. Existentially restless. Depressed? Yeah, tongue depressor, aerial stills of Silicon Valley. What good is any ambition? It's only there to distract you from the suffering of others, from the bleeding runs on this rootless blue eyeball we've infected with circus. Life feels like an accident. There's no purpose to anything. But that's so liberating. Like how a packet of flower seeds are gray, but really all the colors are gay and abundant. And here is a nosegay of for fuck me nots for thee. And later I will loosely arrange a meeting of these lines before the chalet, under the boardwalk, at the chalet, in the shadow of the chalet, under the boardwalk that passes for the chalet, in eyeshadow, where there is snow, and bird poop spatters the mandarin and tan awnings of Le Chalet on Sunset Boulevard, before the green flash and black tomato finish of horseless leapers disgorges Paleolithic bit players, more comely than the stars, more wild and fleeting anyway, and a little Niedeker keeps whiskers ticking in the dash, coppery like a bald redhead's pubic hair, scaling the date palm naked, and his polar opposite too, cadet in night blue wrap on the Albus, playing solitaire on his phone. All right, I'll read one more. Just the last one I'll read is going to be from this little book. Thank you guys for making it, Nick, Jason. Okay. And it's called Freedom. The tradition of making yourself seen versus the tradition of how you smell versus the tradition of how you talk. The tradition of trying to be someone versus the tradition of knowing someone got there first. The tradition of wearing all white to face your lover as a stranger for just long enough to let them see no one standing there, total exposure versus quick retreat to the dark room and your sacks. School tradition versus cutting, the tradition of diagnosing versus the tradition of pretending you know. The tradition of bossing your kids around versus the tradition of letting them figure out your boss all by themselves. The tradition of, war versus the tradition of opposing it, the tradition of telling the truth versus the tradition of revising it. Orphan, foster kid in a tree, refugee, lone drunk, family tradition. Thanks, you guys. Looking forward to the other readers.
Thank you, Julien. Yes, it was. And I think Nick was really hoping you would leave the wallet up here, and then I could pass it off to him later. Merci. All right. It's nice. This is how we run things here. Take the money from the poets. All right. So, once again, those were lovely poems, Julien. And the little books are beautiful, so please be sure to grab some. Wonderful hand watercolors by Jason Morris, poet in-house. All right. So next up, we have a poet. There's going to be two poets, but the first poet coming down from Portland. I think they got a ride on a freighter. and they were gazing off into the Pacific as they headed down the coast on rail lines that aren't really there, but they're from Portland, and Portland doesn't believe in what's there. So Chris Ashby runs a couch press, correct? Yeah. And some wonderful little books that have been sent my way by his co-reader, who we'll get to later. And Chris is a fine man around town. And he's going to come up and share his poems with us all. Chris, please come on up.
Thanks, Patrick. That was more lovely than I could have even imagined. And thanks, Julien. That was fucking awesome. I'm gonna read. So James and I've been here for a couple days. This is the third reading we've done. So I'm gonna read some stuff that I have not read at any of the other readings. I'm part of this project that James is also part of, with an artist from North Idaho, which is where I'm kind of from, where we spend time various places around Portland or outside of Portland, make a book, a zine, whatever you want to call it. Writing is usually not edited or mildly edited, and they're called My Days. And this one is on the Washougal River in Washington, about 20 minutes north of Portland. So I'm going to read the thing in its entirety. My Day number 45, Washougal River, Washington. We're here to see the water, the leaves in the grass, the money in the soil, Dugan Falls in the river, to talk of no such thing as full-time nature, amongst a catalog of trucks in the parking lot, seen through the brown vines, between the free food under the leaves, in the sun, at the foot of second-growth mixed conifer, above prehistoric waterfalls, changing size throughout the year. Flowing over bedrock is a slip and slide for the salmon, for the water in the mountains, to reach equilibrium in the sea. The riverbanks can be owned, including the earth beneath the water, but not the waterway. The Washougal is no exception, most of its banks private and undeveloped. Please clean up your trash, a sign reads. It seems good in this way, this private ownership, maybe. Most upstream banks free of human evidence, except the asphalt or gravel road nearby. If it was all a park, would it get trashed? The navigable river made of snowmelt and rain is public. Please clean up your trash. We come with preconceived notions driving on fossil fuel. And just so it's clear, there's drawings all over this book. So Nate's a visual artist that does these fucking awesome things. As we drive, Nate tells me of weekends as a kid, being driven out to slash piles just to check them out. We stop, a spot overlooking boulders with log jams, a shallow bend where bears could stand grabbing salmon, as if in a television commercial or nature documentary, or just out in nature. And at this overlook on the gravel road, I smell cologne in our talk of friendship, a staple of these days, like water 12 years ago deep. Like the various forms waterfalls take, despite the attention paid to eating fish, finding a home, and aging gracelessly. A debate on keeping in touch with people, rivers, and art. A temptation to choose the worst things swells. The cologne of someone long gone, a blip like a big truck. But then we're back in the woods. No stage big enough, as long as it's brand new. Bought by a logging operation, no one knows, on a day off or something resembling one. The slash piles violently recomposed, the stumps set upright in a circular pattern, their tawny roots ripped from the ground. We look for the river as we drive towards its mouth, but lose it in the bends of the dirt road headed north and uphill. Instead, we find a large mud puddle and a pullout, the area cleared for gravel piles and other equipment. A staging area. We stay for a bit, but the river isn't here. Instead, we find cuts and slashes across the tops of the mountains, leaving only a few trees behind. We walk our separate ways up and down old logging roads. Once finished, we meet in the staging area to make our way back to town. On our way, we stop at the hatchery and walk to the outdoor salmon tanks. A fence keeps us from getting too close. Through the dark water, we can't see any fish, can't hear any fish, only the constant cycling of water in and out of the tanks. We cannot see the river. These hatcheries are a byproduct of electricity and displacement. Are we getting a good picture? It's hard to say. Not many places to stop. Above the hatchery with its private banks. And I wonder of the salmon culture, of the people who came from here, or from here, of the culture since 1000 BCE. And before. Then at last. From before. And at last. We find a stop, a swimming hole. From before, the salmon culture. But after, the water higher. At last, in my memory. From here, before. And clear, after swimming, aware of, from before, the salmon culture, at last, from before. I imagine, but after, stepping over the fence, of swimming, from before, I imagine, satisfaction at last. Now after, a pale skin, at last, of satisfaction from lunch, of eating, before, napping, after. The sun and the salmon from 1000 BCE and long before, swimming at last, to warmth, at last, then after, from before. What's the best way to use a river? We stop at another public spot, a boat launch it appears, but likely not, the decline too rocky and steep. We can hear automobiles and feel the cool of the water and the wind. A couple passes us just having smoked weed somewhere out of sight along the river. They appear very happy and relaxed. It seems nice, a pleasant place to stop and get a little high. What's the best way to use a river? We obviously don't get the whole story on these stops. The river has trees, has branches, has birds in the trees, has squirrels, has bark and rot. The river has exposed roots, has sand and pine brush and berries, fermenting in the shrubs. The river has oaks and napping ducks, has a fresh tire rolled from the road now lying in the clover. We stop at Hathaway Park in the town of Washougal. A parent fishes with his child near a working boat ramp. Nate draws a 6-foot tall eagle carved into a stump rooted near the river in the parking lot. The statue is very American, is vaguely American, is definitely American, is probably American, is undoubtedly American, is possibly American, is absolutely fucking American, is so tried and true American, even the sawdust from the chainsaw that carved it has been left at its base to rot in the gravel of the parking lot. A man pulls up in his luxury sedan, window down on the cold fall day, folk EDM emanating with the smoke of his cigarette. He parks, sits, looks around at Nate and the eagle, takes a short nap window down, wakes up, and drives away. Was someone paid for this? I asked Nate, referring to the eagle. A man from behind a battered SUV walks up out of nowhere and asks if Nate is drawing a picture of the statue. Nate says, yeah. Man says, oh yeah, that's Shane's saw at McLean. He sawed the stump and wanted it to beautify it. He got permission from the city council. The man makes me feel a little uneasy. A woman, a friend of the man's, emerges from behind the same SUV with a large pit bull, adding to the discomfort. They all seem nice, kinda, the pit bull especially, but I walk away and leave Nate to draw alone. I walk by a person asleep against a different stump, leaning hard, their bike propped precariously against the rail beside them, wrapped in dark clothing, a walkway to the river's edge. If the person were to look up, they would see houses dot the opposite side of the river as far as the eye can see, and would likely do so on the side we are on if it were not for the park. A baseball field is carved into the once floodplain behind us. The river is hard-boiled, is hard, passes through so much, will make it to the Columbia if it's the last thing it ever does, or evaporate. The river brings animals together, introducing me to the massive pit bull again, this time dragging the unhealthy people along toward the boat ramp. The boat ramp is hard-boiled, is hard, but the pit bull is harder. I think of the bottle of liquor finished and shattered against a rock, of tree houses across the river and children in them seeing the bottle thrown. I read an acquaintance's poems during a brief stop along the Washougal River Greenway. Nate tells me he's only interested in the authentic. Well, why would we be interested in anything else? Is a river authentic? Are its experiences really the authentic experiences of the Washougal River? It's an absurd line to go down. Is the Washougal River wild? It starts in the mountains behind Camas and flows undammed for 33 miles until it merges with the Columbia. Close to Camas, the river has been manipulated, dredged, and used in various ways to assist with paper milling. The Washougal may not be natural, but it certainly is organic. Train washing station clangs in the distance amongst the blue factory flames. A decade to take it seriously. The Greenway seems a bit dangerous today, but then we come across a beaver-cut tree, a 16-incher, and we document. Not official in most ways, our day that is. Our day is getting colder. Our day suddenly has a lot of sawdust in it. And the question of whether it is good enough, is the river sincere? Is the river a good way to communicate? Does the river need to change its behavior, its attitude, its recall, its memory, its concerns? Another day of reading the wetlands and bridges. Nate's first sturgeon ever swims under us. There are logs washed ashore. There are houses above on the excavated hill. Our day has darkness coming, has a walk back. If we didn't stay too long, it wouldn't be in my day. We get close to the confluence with the Columbia. The river has sloughs, has towers, has mud shaped by the tides. The river has factories, has fishing line, has fog, has signs warning of its depth. Okay, I'm gonna read one more poem. Next one is a short one. It's from a series of poems called I Like Sports. It's called New Year and New Mood, and it's for David Abel. Can the ocean get into a jam? A song perhaps instead of the news. An awareness companion cross-legged on the couch, tickling the insides of one another's brain, connected by fungi and ritual. Unique is not the word. No. How to teach leaving the tea longer in the cup than is necessary. Of strangers in the neighborhood, of months overflowing with salves and glitter, of scrubbing floors to memories of cattle ranches. Synesthesia from only a fingertip, two souls absorbed in a tango. To play cut and paste with footwear. Did it take time to become accustomed to the open toe? Moths on the cabin wall. James says hello. A blanket unfolded precisely and in time to the breadth of creatures too plentiful to count. Skate parks and lawyers? Boots and ladders? A restaurant at the intersection of sedition and mycology. Above the clouds, in the fog, various water vapors. I hope we can see Tartovsky in the theater together sometime. I'd look forward to waxing over the plot. A shout out from the treadmill, not for anything in particular, just excited for what Gertrude Stein might think of Purple Rain. Mating dances in the mountains in a souped up sleaze vehicle. Watch out, you might get booned. Crochet teachers, hard to get a hold of during a fabric crisis. The origins of creativity versus the origins of heteronormativity. What a scandal if they were from the same place. And wouldn't you know? Music feels good at the end of a long day. A massaging bass, a chilled out horn, a sloppy trombone, intertwined in an ambiguous exchange. Thanks. And thanks, Patrick, for setting this up. Jason, for making those really beautiful books.
Thank you, Chris. That was great. And I thought that chapbook seems really dope. And it was a good follow-up to Julian's dropping of Niedecker. It was a book that reminded me of Niedecker in ways that she's got that lovely set of poems about driving around the lakes. So it's always good when the poets connect. And I think that shall continue. So the announcer, which is the name that I've attached to myself right now, forgot to make a statement of opposition earlier. And so with apologies, now there shall be a statement of opposition. So artistic practices are all about freedoms of expression, and the current regime, which is installing a Christian nationalist agenda, is all about shutting that down. And to that, the announcer says, fuck off and fuck you. Now, to go on with the day. Julien, your wallet's still here. I'll be sure to grab it. Nick will take care of it. You'll get it back at some point later the week. So, our final reader shall be James Yeary. James traveled down from Portland as well on that freighter. I've had a wonderful correspondence with James. He's one of the best correspondents out there. Only rivaled by Jeffrey Joe Nelson of Brooklyn, New York. In all honesty, it's true. Even though James has better art, I think, than Jeffrey Joe. Even though that's not to say Jeffrey Joe has the best flyers. I don't think you've ever done flyers, James. So, I mean, I'm always amazed by the flyers Jeffrey Joe does. But compared to your collage postcards, it's just a whole other. It's just two different things. It's kind of like, having, like Ray Johnson and Joseph Cornell. They correspond at points that they intersect. Or actually, the other one that I was thinking of lately is Joe Brainerd reading his great letters. But I think that is the mix that James Yeary participates in, as much as Jeffrey Joe's flyers do as well from the East Coast. Not to bother with the East Coast. But it's better than Kansas across the bay, which we don't go to unless we take the ferry. Interesting, isn't it? So, James Yeary is going to come up and read us some marvelous poems that will be terrific. I guarantee it. And please, again, be reminded that there are books out there. Just grab them. Take one or two. It's all fun. It's all good. Individual covers, 3 of 3. I don't appreciate being heckled. I'm giving the introduction. The audience should listen.
All
and
you
not...
care about is money.
Hey, Baba. James Yeary. That's Nick.
Thank you, Patrick. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming out. It's been a fun weekend. I gotta sit in the Agnes Martin room for the first time. That's a fucking room. Yeah, I'm gonna read a poem that's a little too new to read comfortably, a poem that's a little too old to read comfortably. Then I'm gonna go through some of those My Day books that Chris was talking about earlier, and then I'm gonna end with a Sprechstimme from back in the Weimar days, which is like right now. Dream red blood from my nose, eyes, and ears. Ars Dagon and his brother Azad, Swedish materialists. I can see only them, and with them my fingers through the blood, while you bled in your bed in Mexico City. Adrian, I write only to you, our minds and bodies pierced with blood, the mind of the storm over the poem that will move across the line of the land to reach you. I behind your name, bodies capitalized beneath it properly. The letter of your name, a pyramid of kindling sticks of flame. The name you have set before you in hearth of earth. You're in the center of the universal conscience, Teonachtitlan, bleeding by its temple. You are beside me. In the mind of the storm I am dreaming and dreading. I also dreamt Brad ate a mouse at the wedding, and both of them woke up blowing bubbles. I kind of had to read that because my friend Bradley's came down from Carpinteria for the readings. So thanks for being here, Bradley. This poem has an instruction for the audience, and that is to imagine the possessive apostrophes. A few words yet for your majesty's portions, deserved divestments, tame tent to trail, tendencies, trains, investigations, misalignments, panoramas, peels, interests, cargoes, hastenings, invitations, branches, commitments, foils, findings, irons, embrochures, scissors, displays, dilemmas, increases, eigners, atmospheres, moments, oolongs, bezel, trapeze, belonging, birds. And I'm going to read through 3 very skinny books from the My Day series, project of Nate Orton. I'm going to read one of the many books we've written on 2 of the many books we've written on 82nd Avenue. If you've ever been there in Portland, it's a beautiful street. Someday I hope to open up 82nd Avenue Books. And then I'm going to read My Day walking from Forest Grove through Gales Creek to the Shell Station on Highway 8. And yeah, then I'll read something for Ella Fitzgerald. Wildflowers, aromatics, birdsong fluttering, crows, heron, a Buddhist I recognize, a dead bumblebee still clinging to the flower. The Oriental-style roofs on the strip mall made Nate think that was the temple. Now he's going to walk over here. Tape tracing rearranged improvisational sketches, 2 blondes with dogs off leash and coffee. I think I'll become a Buddha later. Risk cards and clue note sheets scattered through the ripped open fence in the brownfield, a rusted walk and a timid rabbit. Rich people in the hills above 82nd, Nate thought he was drawing the strip club, but it was really an auto glass shop. He's talking about Scappled Pan Daddy and the Fakes, and Jimmy Flame and the Sexy Boys. Find all the records in the valley. That's my favorite Artie garbage can, colored in a fauve style or something, with 2 people kissing and a laptop. A beautiful woman gets into a car with tinted windows at the 76 station. The form-fitting skin tone dress helps her inside. I'm going to try to be a Buddhist and stop drinking and eating meat, even though Bodhidharma said just be yourself. Did Popeye's Louisiana chicken ruin you, Jeremy? Nate recounts being ruined by Burgerville, sober, and earlier by Wendy's as a drinker. All the lingerie modeling places are open. There are places in Portland not fucking around. This one is a tent with 2 pit bulls. This one is a poetry reading with 3 pit bulls. This is where the monks pull in. I pretty much cut out the coffee, but I drink tea all day long. Dan's kid pulling mine across a trampoline. Nate's tape transfer technique to legalize drafts. I made a copy of Cedar's drawing with charcoal on a few rocks by the slow-going construction on 72nd Ave. A rubber band goes flying from his makeshift notebook. 2 little girls on pink bikes ringing the performance space. While Nate transfers a drawing, Lloyd is out front of his house taking his kids to Battleground Lake. I hear drums in the distance. We sold stuff, but we spent it, $100 or maybe less. Horizontalized bouffant. It's illegal to kill insects. More women with dogs. Piles of trash and spent needles. Another high-pitched thing for my attention. Embedded tent city blanket construction in the armpit under Thomas Cully Park. The sound of things out of sight, like trees falling or planes taking off. Remember Guy waving a machete, twilight, early morning, 82nd Ave Max stop. Oh yeah, those guys do kill people. Mercy in the Infinite. 2 little girls on pink bikes ringing the performance space. I'm not sure saying don't kill, kill yourself, or saying you will is going to do it. Kids' art. Bible page. Trash gathering in the fence. I think we can sniff our way to the 92nd Ave Max stop and not have to jump a wall. The community job of art making and policing, now taken on by individuals, sharing a class and associations. Dan's kid pulling mine across the trampoline. Cedar grinning with delight. Here at the end of things, can we be free of doormen? Wash my hands 3 times at the airport. Distinct air of suppressed surliness. One person collapsed behind another. The trees don't have a species, but line up along the road, beautifying big box stores. Power walking, no pants. Bell-shaped pink tank top, tiny fists swivel. Going out for banh mi, Nico asks to be called Elbow. The airport has one restaurant, places with absolutely no animals, northeast Glass Plant Road. There is who is the best, and then there is who is my favorite. Mike Watt is the best. Lee Daiguo is my favorite. We never talk about any other people who make art unless they play rock guitar. A couple motorcycles rip through my earlobes. I'm trying not to take any more. I feel like I've taken enough. July 3rd, Clackamas Town Center. Long story short, I hate telling this story. Roe versus Wade about a week in the ground. I reached into a lawnmower that was running. I'm lucky to have a thumb. The suburbs are trying to kill me. Trying to determine the negative space in a poem, between poems. So in a decade, we can come back and fill it out. I called work, and of course, they're like, leave us alone. It was his business, $120 just to get her ears infected. Shirt says, faith, family, freedom, draped over mannequin stump between two hats. Wine o'clock, Queen of the Camp Trailer, Kiss and AC/DC at Forever 21. A full sensory experience of the poem would include the sound of the pretzel maker at Auntie Anne's. I was able to follow the sound back from the upper-level food court bathroom. If faith and family are forms of freedom, or freedoms from, I'm not getting paid for it. My house was born under this. It might have been right there in front of Panera Bread Company. Stairway to Chipotle. Too lazy to draw, you already pissed me off. Googled the acronym, add white supremacist. I should not be thinking about teaching right now. These images are in my world right now. They want to remain in the system. Locust, trash tree. Everyone hates them except overpasses. Sorry, Shane, but bar punk is just an offshoot of mall punk. Boise noise crust bands. We're the banquet captains. Empty box of vanilla sandwiches. Bar body, mall body. Shopping cart and ditch. We could recreate the gas leak, Popeye rents, questionable syntax to minimize syllabary, pigs in blankets under the trees at the historic Clackamas Cemetery. We put our prepositions everywhere. I think not having a job is dangerous. If you don't know how to use your time, best flag I've ever drawn. A poet for purely referential purposes, everything that exists in one notebook. She loved us all. Oregon had a communist work camp, but it was mostly Quakers doing the mattress dispensary twirl, one of the few monuments I don't want toppled. It wasn't a slow tapering. We got into a vibe, but now we're in Clackamas County. Here, 82nd Avenue runs parallel to, but in between 92nd and 93rd, a vibe to be sure. Accidentally Christian acupuncture. In the grass by the Wells Fargo vape stick and box elders, Nate kills one, not a pacifist. Tries to draw the bikini barista without looking. James Castle, Ed Ruscha is a continuum. For a moment, all the cars were white. Mattress World outmaneuvers Starbucks. Each one has its own arrow dancer, doing the mattress dispensary twirl. I got the bikini going on. I don't mention the spider on his Carhartts. Imagine the adult videos all serve a religious function. If there is any question about the Coors family politics, you can now get it in a bottle saying Adolf Coors. My brain goes to this weird place. I think if you handcuffed me and gently laid me down on the floor, I'd probably go to the same place. My body levitated from the table and exploded. I can't enjoy music. I'm too busy stealing. What I taste, change. What I listen to changes. It's not Ornette Coleman's fault, it's my fault. I want jazz to come close to collapsing without collapsing, a little more in the red than Giant Steps. But a clarifier, I'm quoting Nate, because if you ever say you want to put on some Coltrane, I'm saying Interstellar Space. In polite company, Crescent from Live in Japan. Tootie Cole gave us the boot from this place. That's a lot to cook up for most people. I want to know more about him being like, we're cut from the same cloth. And that's why he was able to kick us out of there. With that we or that you and he were the same person. Trace the stencil lettering. Make a contour line drawing of the flag. Billowing in and the azure nimble skyline. See the osprey's nest above between billboards. No looky. The guy and his friend with a Harley stopped us on our way back from the historic cemetery. I don't know if my recollection of these figures is valid to my transcribing them, let alone my experience, but they congratulated us on not being homeless. Billboards designed to accommodate eagling. The truck I grew up with, Nissan the year you were born, 0.9, down a thumb. Eric Hoffman, Ju Wenbo, Woody Guthrie. Take some other experiences I've had and include it in or with this one. My day walking from Forest Grove through Gales Creek to the Shell Station on Highway 8, February 6th, 2012. Introduction, it looks smaller from space. Zoo Forestry Center, East Side Mayflower. Hillsboro, to me, is just a terrible shithole and a terrible place to be. It's a quote. I didn't say it. Crash US 26 2B at 185th, left lane closed. That's not a place we want to be. Look at this fucking zoo. How it's done. Jeff on his B-day at 32, empty symbols. That truck says it's super heavy. People like us who surf the web when we're drunk. Like Dante's Inferno, but for hicks. Levels of carnival you go when you're dead. We're so used to it. We want to take the cul-de-sac and put it in your hands. Dogs at our ears, to the tune of Hades alone walking. Parliament Fluxadelic blank boarded up storefront. Oregon Legionnaire still serving America. If you have to make the rules as you go, you will find your decisions are not consistent and correct. This is going to be a dirty day. Nate draws a car crash from memory. Think there's a plaid pantry at the ocean? I blew out my knee up in those mountains and stood here cursing myself. Sturm real estate, a real nice suit and some bootsy glasses, paintings to turn away from, stars on a post-it, rust on signs verso, strip down, pull the red flag, Nate's jacket, through the strap of his backpack. Wu-Tang tag on the voltage box, danger, barred culvert, head of cabbage in the gutter, bat feeder, red stripes fade to taupe, inflated globe under bench by the ball court, half-submerged bag of crisps. Nate uses a word I will not repeat. Breakaway trail along fence, can of Spam, FIB, LOC, Fiblock, nice rock. Blank sign, bottle and flare, something smells like juice or worse. Whatever's in this ditch is viscous, roof over feeding cattle across from pile of tires. What happens between these walks? Snickers wrapper advertises two things. Discarded wrapper advertises sentence, litter illustrates the universe. Collapsing barn equation. Missionaries, hipster from hobo to hobo. Wet homework actually taxes. Number of qualifying children times $1,000. Honey eggs. Indeterminate as funk. My feet are hot enough for all of me. Mailbox within mailbox covered in horseshoes. American flag drapes over the numbers. Styrofoam strewn on both sides. Rustling of rodents near but concealed from us. Green velvet. Sutter home and Dutch bros. Hobo speedball. Nate loses sweater, takes leak. Gate held with broken stones. Nate admits to softening. Alpacas remind me of Sandra bathing on video. Sheriff. Bones. Is that 60s lingo for trouble from the fuzz? Sorry I put a bullet in your backpack. Slash pile burns out front the winery. Shouldn't touch it. This winery I went to with Adrian on her 30th birthday. I remember the dog, chatty gal behind the counter, and the all Pinot Rosé. I didn't catch that she stopped bottling when her husband killed himself. Busy glowing with the fact that I've been in love once or twice, and that's enough. Sound of machines felling trees and guys yelling. Leaves circle in wind, spiral up between the bare vines. Floating Coors and apple. Fine traces proving nothing. Tree farm, the other kind of shells. Rick Balch, 48 to 71, never forgotten, ride free. Whipped cream canister, microbrew bottle. For the wind from these jerks, for a chicken fried steak in Gales Creek. One box for each Oregonian. Imagined anchor tattoo, trampoline. Saddest flag under algae. Spray paint feigns a shoulder. Mailbox resembles Twombly. Narrow horse. Upright bottles indicate transience. Homemade poster reads, lost cause. solar panel, heirloom vegetables, Gales Creek, sad, sagging kale, 0 mile. Filthy satellite dish, beaming sequitur to the labor camps of southern Idaho. Birdsong, falling barn. Mustard color fallen from its face. Real farmer, mother of Oregon. Teepee by the trailer. 4 horses, 2 wearing coats. Bad writing, good stories. Wonder what the fuck that is. Something to put a sign up on, a place to call it good. All right, I'm going to read one little poem. I'm going to move this back here a little bit. And I forgot that I sent Nick this poem that I'm excited to read for you. It's an old fave from I published it in a chapbook some of you guys got called Hawaii, which I meant to make more of and bring, but it's in here.
Good chapbook.
This poem's called Fauna Armament. That's what it looks like when I hold germs. Teeth a program, mouth a program, ambient believing hunger surround and fill the created plane. Little alphabets outside yet reread into the program become meaning in food, meal mantras, blinking creosotes, edges alive and decentered, potentio vilicus, undressing lymphatic syzygies and clouds of acid destroy them all. Basophil, the arch critic, coronating victims of the thunderword in Basophil's cloud catalog, boomerang both directions, while stirrings melodious arise from revenge guitars, pointed nuclei and omnivalent dendrites with a badger's degree of consumication, shunt plungerfoot shucking off ethers, where manzanitoid amoebas dissolve skeletal trilobites, stripped of their powers, ensnared archon mitochondria, ouch. Blinded panopticon claims monad status. Serpentine tweezer grazing on all that was good, without gravitas, only potassium locking the old weird down. Labradoodles, lagomorphs, ethereal, betitiating, conjunctive, barbelo, nostem, unculo, nimbo, nimorphior, nephilistomo, podolorosoma, tachilogram, scilia, vajra, formunda, plexitor, materna, logo, tello, sternactorex, up on Skin Beach, untussled or tuffed by commandment waves. Thank you.
Someone left their wallet. If anybody's missing their wallet, I have it. There's money in it. You could buy books with the money in the wallet if anybody needs it. Thank you.
What now?
That was great. Oh, is this yours?
I don't know. Let's see.
I
I
don't-
don't even know if I look like this guy anymore. Look at Cora.
That's cute. Go away.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, yes. You can like draw like lions and velvet. Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to share with you guys.
Yeah, back here. Look at all these like.
It's a guy. You don't have to move it. It opens. It opens. It opens. Oh, that just blocked, buddy. Just grab. Pulls out on my computer. Here's your AR. Oh, it says $20.
Oh, they're free. Made for the reading. Use to take home. Yeah. Different papers. Yep.
did one alone in 2006 or 5, riding the train.
Yeah, Bradley came down.
Then I moved into his
Talked a lot of miles with that guy.
and like we started doing these, and I think there's 54 of them. I've done like 15. James has probably done 20.
Where
You guys have, do you guys have an offset press? This is public press or something? Or when you guys?
Good job. We used to just like print the right down cheaply, however we could. They all look different. None of them are remotely the same. But yeah, we found this offset printer that used to be musicians and stuff. Maybe like 300.
Yeah.
It's like you pay the same price for one or two.
Basically,
Yeah.
with offset, yeah.
It's what,
And the covers are all, I can't remember what Nate's.
Cover's too small.
It's a linoleum.
I feel like it was one house.
Yeah, it's definitely one house long. The world's safest beach. That's what they say.
Yeah, it's like love, but it's
I love it, man.
like sort of the intersection of friendship and art and like
Yeah.
aging together.
Yeah, that's cool that you guys have been doing it together for so long.
They claim that. I'll
No,
send you
I
the.
loved your stuff, man. That was like such a impassioned, fun.
I mean, I'm sure they're not the only
I'm
place.
happy that way.
Yeah.
It's good. It's really important. Yeah. Damn. So how long are you guys in town? Really
Tomorrow night.
tomorrow?
World's safest beach. That's so sick.
That was fun. That was really nice.
Damn.
Nice.
That was really good.
Like a couple. Can I add a couple skinny books to your collection?
Thanks for sending the recent stuff too. The order.
Yeah, I never give you money for night mail, but I love night mail. So I'll keep
Man, that's all we need to do.
that going.
Sorry. Yeah, so what is the key? What is night?
That's I'll send it to you.
Let me give you a few. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
I've been. It's just like these books that I make, or kind of. This is that's the one I read.
Oh, I'm not dissing. I just would.
Sometimes they're like, a lot small. That's the kind of deluxe stuff.
Of course, I was going to write it down when he said he liked his jazz more in the red than Giant Steps, but I needed to clarify that's not my position.
I was just reading this new book that different from each other, and every day
Apparently was
I kind of get stuff together and they all out.
the next thing he did was write a book about kind of blue. You want to go see the kid? He laced it.
So I started doing that like back in 2016 after Anna sort of lost interest a lot in doing
All these people were
radio
so
and more conventional publishing. So I took it.
all he did is he like pulled these like up the
It started a lot more like your stuff and that, and it started more like making handmade, like we got the clamshell letterpress and we're doing all that. And then we began doing like after I hated it, we started doing more and more. Slowly did chapbooks, but
Getting a check.
more trade paperbacks.
Yeah.
And then I had a period of really wanting to make a trade paper, wanting to publish.
Yeah, that's all. We spent a day in like this religious, this Catholic like grotto, And so it's like this like park with like the Stations of the Cross and a bunch of statues.
Alright, the Saint City Poster's 15.
Okay.
I didn't know.
What?
Thank you.
The mission of the Church of Saint John Major.
Oh, you're talking about the hours.
Yeah, the actual mission of
Are they all this like hand done? Or I guess the writing always hand done?
Some of them are more fans, I mean, like, yeah, they are all handmade.
Sorry, never mind.
Yeah, never mind. Handwriting and then.
But I should go to the mission.
I mean, if you want to look at
that stuff.
I like all this.
Where this is, they could be in.
it's a good, like,
We were gonna go, trying to go blind at all and stay quiet.
to the doctor, okay.
I've done like 7-1 of them.
No, but the Coltrane Church,
The early phase
We've
of
moved
it was more
on
like
from
every
it.
book I was like, I need to try to do something completely different.
I don't know. I went up on a hike.
reason nice to preserve. You know, for the conscious age, we have this sort of wonderful
Memory doesn't. Memory is failing you at the moment.
I feel like you can kind of like eight-dimensionalize it. You know?
Oh, that's moved there.
One way of doing that is through all these different ages.
There was a top
Fonts,
guy that works for City Lights.
line drawings, color, collage, all that.
For a pastor came and talked to the band.
You guys have this ongoing series, because then all the books start reflecting hobbies. And you really do have anyone who cares to enter it. Brian really is like environment. Hey, good to see you.
Fucking great.
That's good though.
But that was fucking great.
I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad you were here.
I'll see you.
That was so good.
I think so, yeah.
So I'm not I mean, I heard before Kate told me to take me. Yeah, I really
So just to show you something that exists, this at one point was the complete My Days, now there are more, but
But it's really
pretty cool thing that
it's like, it's always nice to
Nate,
get,
he's an art teacher in Portland.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
You met him in college. Yeah, he's a visual artist, you know, and so he's a printmaker, like he's a big printmaker. A lot of these are done with different weird, like, printing techniques.
in your case, you just send me your books, I'll send you.
Yeah, no, I've no.
So this is a complete My Day, so we're the only writers. I did about a third of these. Chris has done a third of them. Two of them were all three of us together in My Day, Blazers versus Thunder, and one where I was like at home with the kids and he was fighting a fire, and Nate was like doing whatever he does. Maybe he was teaching. I forget what year. So I guess I was
I
really
understand why people want to do it, because I had that same desire. It just wasn't one that
Yeah,
still feels.
there's beauty in there. Yeah, take a peek.
Especially it's like, I just feel like poetry is like
Not in this box, they aren't.
there's just, it's really
More ordered by like.
I feel like when you're making
Yeah, so that's My Day on, under, and around the St. John's Bridge, which I read from
and it's
at some point this weekend.
rivers down
And so that's like actually a bunch of recordings that another guy came in and like, did recordings with us.
And I don't know, man, that's like, to get
Just a
into
lot of
there,
original.
I just don't feel like, I just feel like you,
Right?
it has to do with continually making, like finding new forms.
Yeah, this is a really beautiful.
You know,
Like,
finding,
like I think that is
I
a
just
total
feel like
beauty.
maybe
Some of the books are just Nate. Like,
started
you know, it's
feeling
Nate's project, so some of them are just.
So, like,
doing like
you guys do road trips
good
together.
cycles of capitalism.
That's what it's
Well, we've done a lot of long walks. A lot of these are just really long walks. Like I read Walking from One Town to Another. So that last book I read was Walking from the town of Forest Road to the town of Gary.
And
You know, born through, you know, a layer of hip film.
But you do like day trips or something.
There was a time
I'm sure
when
you've got a lot of friends.
each a day had to be 8 hours. He was 2 years older than
It's one of
me.
these I do
They went to
too.
school together. And they went to
I
high
love
school.
those friends, how they approach that, and how serious they are about
Yeah,
writing.
we're hanging out
I
with
like
them.
making
I would have,
That's like why I got into it. That's why I
You should be.
keep doing it.
He was saying,
I agree.
And sometimes those worlds seem like they're going side by side, but
I
very
don't look at these enough actually.
so what's this?
Yeah, I'm kind of experienced that whole.
Yeah, Nate is the visual artist. And
Oh,
like,
okay.
Where it was in balance.
It's the 20-year anniversary of the first My Day, which was My Day on the Mat. So this was the first one he made. It's not the first edition.
There's a moment, not very long, but where it kind of like it was happening like side by side, and it felt just
But we both came aboard, you know, just in a couple years after that. I think the first one Chris did with Nate was My Day at the Floyd Center Mall.
we started fighting.
Or maybe it was My Day on the Burnside Bridge. There's a few that have been like a day on public transit.
Wow, you got a big old.
Yeah, this is the complete my day, or it was. I gave one to Jason. So this was the complete in 2019. I think it was. Yeah, I think it's a deconstructed like school folder.
Nick always shocked.
Yeah, we have a friend. David. Okay, he owns a bookstore in Portland. He's been running really good. We're both he just sells these like complete things. He travels around the country selling books to small collections, universities, bookstores. And like, it kind of wasn't, I don't know, it felt like it wasn't.
In my extreme noise terror
It's like this friend we have this is what he does anyway. He sells we have apology collections and things like that to like Berkeley and Roma, places like that. And then he just sells these